Hey, what is up guys? You Gypsy, and we are back here today for NPL Season 8 semi-finals, going up against my brother Matty Brollic in what should be a really fun game to round out this season. So, obviously, my kind of passion for the NPL has really dropped off as of late. Yeah, Matty's too, events and just kind of time. We've been in this league for a while now, but if there is something that excites me in the NPL, to this day, it is playing Matty, and that's because Matty, not only is he a really good friend of mine, but as you all know, he is an incredible player and builder. Someone that I have just an enormous amount of respect for when it comes to Mons, both in the draft format and in standard play. He's a guy that, whenever I get the chance to face him, I really do enjoy it. Whether it's really tight games or just like really amazing games we've had in the past. We've had a lot of crackers, and this season we had a great one earlier on. So whether I win or lose, it's always a really fun game versus Matty, and I know he feels the same way because the feeling is mutual there. So what a way to round out the season, a game against my man Matty, and his team is a little unorthodox for his style, but it really is an amazing team, and I know Matty wasn't too comfortable with it this season. It didn't really fit his style, but honestly, he's used it really, really well, and he made some free agent transactions in the later part of the season, or sort of midway through the season after we faced him, and he dropped his Azumarill, which was pretty big. He dropped his Raikou, and he dropped his Swellow, but he picked up Mimikyu, Keldeo, and Azelf. Now, Azelf, Matty's probably the best Azelf user I've seen in the format, without question. He knows how to use that thing really well. So that thing is a massive threat in Matty's hands. But more importantly, Mimikyu and Keldeo are huge issues for my team. I don't necessarily think Matty made these picks to counter-team me, but considering we're on like opposite sides of the conference and all this sort of stuff, and he doesn't typically do things like that, but even if he did, I wouldn't blame him. It's a smart tactical decision. But regardless, those two Mons are huge pains for my team. It really shifts the matchup from our first game, which was a matchup that I felt like was fairly even. I feel like he had some really solid responses to my threats, and I had some answers to his threats. We both had some huge threats on our team. Don't get me wrong, but I don't know. I felt like it was a fairly even matchup. But this time with Mimikyu and Keldeo, they invalidate so much of my offense. Keldeo, like a Specs Keldeo, for example, and this is just one variant of Keld that Matty can bring, is a huge threat to my defensive core. Like, it invalidates Chomp, unless I run like a really fat Chomp set. ST Chomp is always checked by Specs Keld. It can blow past Clefable if it specs. Even Spadef variants can't stomach two specs Hydros. Even if I'm like max Spadef, it's just ridiculous how strong Keldeo is. Suicune gets really whittled by spec Secret Sword. And then my defensive core, stuff like Clef, stuff like Mandibuzz, Quag, they do not appreciate Keldeo. Obviously, I do have the Vileplume on my team, and that's actually a mon that I am bringing to this game, but that my Vileplume is kind of forced to run more of a physically defensive or a mixed defensive set to check the other mon that I mentioned, which is Mimikyu. So Mimikyu, another huge threat to my team. It can check Swords Dance Garchomp, Medicham, Aegislash, all because of its amazing ability to disguise. So I really think Matty's used Mimikyu well this season, and I feel like it has a really strong chance to come to this game. Defensively, it's quite difficult for me to check. It does force me to bring certain mons to check the threat of SC Mimikyu, but purely from its ability to check my offense with disguise is a real factor in this game that created a huge amount of pressure when it came to building. I really will be honest with you guys here. And I mentioned Specs Keldeo, but another variant that is probably more likely what Matty will bring, just given his skills as builder. He might shy away from Specs, although Specs is very effective with me versus me. He may go for something like a Taunt, like a bulkier Keldeo with Taunt, because honestly, Taunt Keldeo beats the majority of my team. There's really not a lot I can do about it, especially if he's bulky with Carmine. Like that kind of Keldeo can really just invalidate a lot of my team. So that could be a real issue. Now, like I said, like this this matchup is kind of tricky because of that. Not to mention that he has stuff like Nidoking, which with the Life Orb, I just don't have responses to. I could bring a fast, speedy Mandibuzz, and that is actually a set that I built. I built a team. I built a lot of different teams for this game. Where is it? I'll find it. It's down here. Alright, so this was one Mandibuzz variant that I did have. It was a very fast Mandibuzz creeping modest Nidoking. It allows me to always switch in, knock off, remove his Life Orb, which could be a real nuisance versus me if I don't manage to remove that. And yeah, this Mandy is quite nice for a few things on his team, also helps with Keldeo, but ultimately, again, that's something that Mimikyu really loved to take advantage of with Play Rough. Ultimately, I settled on this team here, so I'm going to jump into it. I do have a kind of makeshift check to Nidoking, but even so, if Matty plays around that well, or expects my response, then he can really just nullify it essentially. So, yep, this is going to be definitely a tricky game. Matty has Selly, which I believe is the best one in the format, and I've got a lot of love for Celesteela, as you guys know. I think by now everyone is aware of how amazing that thing is. Latios really does force certain prep. I mean, too, like I can't just bring Garchomp, Nihilego, Medi, Coon, without bringing something like Aegislash or Clefable to at least have some kind of response to Lati, because if I just bring those, I'm like Specs Lati just goes absolutely ham versus me. And then he's got T-Type, which is a really, really nasty mon, but I'm pretty comfortable versus that thing, just because I do have a few checks on deck. One being this this lead. Well, it's not even necessarily a lead, but this Garchomp right here. So I am Yachi, and Yachi is very underwhelming offensively compared to a Z-move variant that I could bring. Like in game 1, I brought a Z Stone Edge variant, which I caught his Lapras by surprise. But yeah, Yachi helps me guaranteed lead versus some kind of lead Nidoking with like Shuka or Sash. It helps me switch into Tyranitar if he is Ice Punch. Helps me lead versus Tyranitar if he is Ice Punch, and essentially guarantee my rocks. It also helps me versus Specs, Icy Wind, Keldeo, which I think is certainly a viable bring if he does want to have something to guarantee revenge my Chomp if I'm like a bulky Z-move. And yeah, it's just pretty solid here. But yeah, it is going to be a lot harder for this kind of Garchomp to take down a Celesteela. But the fact that I'm Yachi means that I can bluff to be like Z Firefang, because if I show SD and I reveal Firefang or Protect or something, I can always bluff that I am the Firebeam Z, which could yeah, certainly play into my hands depending on how Matty wants to play around that. But that's going to be Chomp here. Rocks are pretty essential. Rocks are pretty important. Obviously, Matt's removal consists of Laddie, Delmise, and yeah, that's pretty much it as far as I can see. So yeah, rocks are going to be pretty important for wearing things down over the course of the game. Pretty self-explanatory. The next one we have here is a speedy Crocoon. Really contemplated Vinecoon, honestly. It was on the majority of my teams, but last minute I decided to change to a Carmine Rest variant just to check to more reliably sponge status, because if Matty brings like Toxic Spam and stuff like Mishana, it's really going to hinder my game plan, which I'm going to get to at the very end. I brought some fire to this game, but yeah, if he does bring Toxic Spam, that could be a real pain to deal with, because my Clef is not Magic Guard, it's unaware this week, so nothing really appreciates Toxic, and I can't really haphazardly switch Aegislash into like potential attacks, and you'll see why as we get on. But yeah, having this as a damage sponge can and status sponge can be really big this game. Obviously, it's walled by Lapras if he runs Water Absorb, but Lapras is not something that I really feel like Matty would bring again. He certainly could, but either way, I have ways of switching into Freeze Dry on my teams. That's not a massive deal. Keldeo is going to be a real pain for this thing, especially if he's a Taunt variant, which honestly I think he's probably going to be. But I have to respect Specs. This is it. Like, Keldeo is a fantastic one in draft, because like the threat of Specs, obviously Scarf is good versus a lot of teams too, but versus mine it's pretty underwhelming. But the threat of Specs or just Carmine Taunt, you got to respect both options. And yeah, Suicune here helps switch into stuff like Specs Hydras, helps Pippi stall those, which is certainly nice for Clef, because Clef does not appreciate taking Specs Hydras from Keld. So the next one we have here is my Vileplume, and yeah, I've got enough defense to live +2 Adamant, Life Orb, Shadow Claw for Mimikyu after rocks, which is important. I can always Strength Sap that thing back. Sleep Powder here is going to be really clutch to sleep something versus his team. I don't think he brings a Grass type versus me, honestly. I think Sleep Powder is going to be pretty nice for sleeping something like a Selly that wants to switch in on this, or if I'm in a 1v1 situation with Celesteela, I can Sleep Powder it after taking an Air Slash, as long as he's not like Z Air Slash or something like that. I can take an Air Slash and put that thing to sleep, which is going to be huge for the rest of my team. Hidden Power Fire just gives me something to break the subs of Celesteela and allows me to wear down Delmines faster if for some reason he does bring it. Giga Drain, obviously mandatory there, just for some damage on Keld and some recovery. So yeah, Vileplume, very, very nice. Effect Spore and Rocky Helmet combo nicely together if he does bring Mimikyu. And if he doesn't bring Mimikyu, then my Wincon in the back, which is Medicham, is going to have a much nicer time. So I'll kind of come back to Vileplume when we get to Medi, but yeah, certainly an important one in this game. Some Spidef helps me check Keldeo a little bit better. Then we have my Unaware Clef here. Very, very standard, kind of boring looking Clef, but important nonetheless. Does help me check stuff like Latios if he's a Carmine variant, helps me check Keldeo if he's a Carmine variant with no Taunt or Toxic. Well, I can check Toxic variants, just not Taunt, because Taunt kind of like just destroys my team. I can't lie. Really, really contemplated bringing like fast Encore Clef again, because it is so nice for Celesteela. And an offensive set would be amazing versus a lot of his team, but the bulk on this Clef was kind of important because Mimikyu could potentially overwhelm my Vileplume if he plays it correctly. Like if he double SDs and I don't, and I choose the Strength Sap over Sleep Powdering, it could really get out of control and threaten a lot of my team, because like +4 or +3 Sneak can destroy my offense. So having Unaware on this Clef just gives me some more insurance versus that, and it does help versus Tyranitar. It helps versus Azelf, like a nasty plot variant of Azelf could be a bit annoying, as well as a Celesteela, like an Autonomize Weakness Policy Selly, for example. This Clefable can check as long as it's not like Z Flash Cannon or like Heavy Slam or something like that. So yeah, that's going to be Clef. The next one we have here is my Air Balloon AG. This is a really subpar Aegislash, and this is not a set that I'm like really too happy with. But honestly, that Nidoking really forced my hand. You guys saw that Spidef Mandy that I showed you guys earlier. That was kind of the kind of mon that would come over this Aegislash, but having AG, what AG allowed me to do is to have a better check to like Shadow Sneak is really invaluable in this game. It could potentially be the difference in a late game situation versus something like a Latios, and yeah, just being able to switch into this, Aegislash into the Nidoking's dual stabs is going to be really nice, as it will allow me to play a certain way. Like if he looks at my team, like Matty's a very smart player, like he'll probably look at my team and he may well assume that I'm Air Balloon, but if he doesn't, and I can switch Aegislash in, I can then double to Medicham on the T-Bolt or on the coverage move to break the balloon and shift the momentum right back in my favor. And I'm going to get into how I plan to do that. So whilst this Aegislash is very subpar, like it looks strong, like Quiet Nature with 176 attack. I have like over 400 special attack, but with an Air Balloon and with the natural bulk on Matty's team, like Shadow Ball is doing very little damage. It's quite disappointing how like weak this mon can be without a boosting item. I was not to say AG isn't good, but it really is underwhelming in certain matchups, and this certainly is one of them. Whilst SD is nice, it's always checked by Tita, who can outspeed and crunch it. It fails to Oko Selly, like a defensive Selly at +4 with like Sacred Sword. Keldeo always lives hits. Mimikyu's Disguise pretty much means that I cannot like run an effective SD variant, because he can always save Mimikyu in the back to be able to Shadow Sneak me or Shadow Claw me in Blade form. So yeah, it's pretty tough for AG to really flourish in this matchup, given the changes that Matty made to his team. But nonetheless, this could potentially work out as a nice kind of pivot into the Nidoking. So, but it does mean that I'll have to avoid my AG taking damage in the early game if he does save his Nidoking, which is obviously pretty suboptimal, because AG's defensive typing is really useful for stuff like Lapras. stuff like Latios and Azelf. So yeah, pretty unfortunate there, but this is the set I decided to go with. And then lastly, we have the kind of fun set. I had to bring some fun. Like, if this is going to be my last game in the NPL, I wanted it to be certainly a fun game. This Matty set looks pretty strange. This is probably the most like unusual Matty set I've brought, but there is some thought process behind it. So essentially, if Matty does bring Mimikyu or one of his ghosts, Vileplume's job is to wear that thing down to pretty much take it out in order for this Medicham to win. If Matty brings a similar kind of Mashana set that he brought in the first game, i.e. one lacking Toxic, this Medicham actually sets up on it, gets the +6 and 1v1s it. So with Carmind and my SpDef investment, Shadow Balls are doing under 20%, like at +1. Like, it's ridiculous how well this thing takes those. I can set up on Celesteela, just like an Air/Leech Seed Celesteela, or like with Heavy Slam, I can set up on that kind of variant of Celi. I can obviously check Mega Tyranitar. I can set up on non-specs Keldeo. If he's, I think like a neutral max attack Hydro Pump does like 54 or something like that, around that kind of range. So if I'm set up to like +2, Specs Keldeo cannot check me. And my Drain Punch recovery, even if I'm at +1 special defense, 2 Drain Punches will take out Keldeo, unless he's like max bulk, something like that, and he will fail to 2-KO me with Hydro Pump. Now recover is kind of heat, because like I can switch this thing into T-Tar, shoot any hit, and then just recover off as he's forced to go out into Mashana to take the fighting type attack. I can recover up on stuff like Nidoking. If I get a Carmind up, Nidoking, Modest Life Orb Nidoking cannot 2-KO me with Sludge Wave, with Sheer Force Sludge Wave, which is kind of crazy. And I can proceed to Carmind up on that thing, recover up, and then start Drain Punching him down, whether I have bulk ups up or not. So this Mon in theory is a very nice win con. It's in a lot of test games, I tested versus myself a lot. Like, I simulated this game versus myself. I built a team for Matty, and I tested versus myself, and yeah, it was very effective in a lot of games, and in some of the tests I had versus other people. So I'm pretty keen to see how this works out. Obviously, it's a very suboptimal set in terms of checking stuff like Nidoking offensively and Keldeo, because Drain Punch doesn't do a ton at all. But yeah, if I can position this Medicham correctly, and I can avoid straight Toxics from stuff like Celi or Mashana, which I don't really think he'll bring, because then he loses out on valuable coverage or utility in that move slot, then Medi can be certainly a really nice win con here. So this is going to be the team. It's nowhere near as good as a team as I made for my week 4 game, I think, but honestly, I'm pretty happy with it, considering the how the matchup changed after Matty's free agent picks came into effect. So that's going to be the team. We're going to pause it here, and I'm going to jump into the match and see how it all went down. Alright guys, so we're back here with the semi-finals up against Matty, and as you can see, he brought the 4. I didn't really discuss this in the team builder, but there were 4 ones that I felt were coming 100%. T-Tar, Mashana, Nidoking, and Celi. T-Tar, just very nice versus me. Mashana is his Medicheck. Nidoking is one of his best breakers, literally his best breaker versus me. Celi is Celi. I felt Keldeo was an amazing pick here. I didn't feel like it had to come necessarily, but it is just a phenomenal Mon versus me. And one of the reasons why he picked it up probably is to threaten my team. And then Lapras in place of Mimikyu. So no Mimikyu, which means that my Medi is definitely looking pretty nice at matchup anyway. But yeah, Lapras is going to be a bit of an issue for my team to switch into, though my especially defensive Clefable could really give that thing some issues, just switching in and wishing up. But if he clicks Hydro, that thing is going to do a ton of damage. So yep, gonna have to really play around that carefully. But yeah, this is the team that Matty brought. Definitely more of a balanced looking team, though. I'm expecting Lapras to be offensive, Nidoking to be offensive, Keldeo to be like bulky offensive, Celi to be defensive, Mashana defensive, and then T-Tar probably mixed. He could go either way. He could be like a defensive Tar, or he could be like offensive Rock, or even a DD variant. So yeah, these are my thoughts at matchup. I'm going to lead with Chomp. So I'm going to lead off with Chomp, as he does lead off with King here. Now, this is a pretty interesting spot. there was some mind games in our previous game with Matty expecting me to expect his Nido King to be Shuka, or him fearing me to be Yachi. Regardless, this turn 1 I'm just going to EQ. If he wants to go into Selly, I just set up rocks on that and then SD, depending on how he plays his Selly. So I'm okay with losing momentum turn 1 if it means removing Nido King from the game. As Nido King has no switch, like my team struggles versus Nido King. I'm not going to not take the opportunity to take it out this early if I have the chance. Although him going to Selly was extremely obvious, it's like there are some mind games here. So I am just going to go for EQ as he goes into Selly, and now I can just get my rocks up this turn, as he is going to go for the Air Slash. Now this is interesting. Air Slash, Leech, Heavy Slam, and Protect was the moveset that Matty brought to our first game. And that's a pretty good set versus me, in my opinion. Air Slash means that he can check stuff like my Vileplume really nicely. And Leech is just really, really irritating for my team to face. Obviously, in the game 1, I had a really, really nice Clef set that was like a fast Life Orb Magic Guard with the Fire Blast, and that thing could always encore like a defensive Selly. And that's a set that I really did enjoy that game. But yeah, the Keldeo really kind of forced my hand here with the Spit F Clef, but the fact that he's got Air Slash leads me to believe that it could be a similar kind of set that he brought last game. He's more than likely defensive. I don't think this is offensive Selly, as lefties is just so nice versus me. But yeah, that Air Slash damage reveals to not be like majorly invested or anything. He's probably like no investment or very little if any. So right here, I am going to switch out hard into my Suicune on his potential Leech Seed, as he does reveal that here. So he's going to go for Leech, and Pressure is going to come into play here, burning 2 pressure points or power points as opposed to 1. That's why, one of those is why Coon's so great. And I'm just going to fire for Scald here, fishing for a burn. If he wants to go into Keldeo, I could get a really nice burn on that, which could be crucial. But we do 21 with that, as I do not get the Scald burn there, which is fine. It's only the first Scald. As Matty's going to reveal the Metal Sound here, and this is a really, really cool tech. Metal Sound Selly is criminally like underused, but it is a really nice shuffling tool for a lot of teams. And this means I'm going to take a ton from an Air Slash if he wants to stand and go for that here. So this turn I am going to switch out to my Clefable, as he does Metal Sound once again. Metal Sound, by the way, has like 64 PP or something. It's ridiculous. The thing has so much PP, so there's no chance I'm stalling those out. But either way, I want to kind of scout up the set of the Selly. He's revealed to have Leech Seed, Air Slash, Metal Sound. So I am going to go into my Clef here. Now this is an interesting point. I half expected Matty not to have Protect, even though Protect is really nice in conjunction with Leech. Having a second coverage move, be it Heavy Slam to take on a Calm Mind Clefable, which could be really, really nice versus him, or Heavy Slam just to bop a similar Clef set that I brought last game, which could always switch in on Leech Seeds, could always switch in on Air Slashes with ease, even Metal Sounds, because I could just encore it. Having Heavy Slam in the back of its move pool, just to be able to make an aggressive Heavy Slam, Heavy Slam on a Clef switch that I could make during the game, is definitely an option that I think Matty may have considered with the Selly. So I didn't want to risk Clef. I wanted to scout and see what kind of fourth coverage move he did have, if any. I didn't really think he'd go for the Air Slash here, because I could just go hard back into Suicune to pressure another 2 PP of Air Slash if he went for it. Or him going for Leech Seed, he was a fine play as well, and going Coon would also allow me to stall out another Leech Seed PP. So I felt like this turn, if he had Heavy Slam, he was going to reveal it. And in truth, I could have just clicked Protect, but that also grants his Nido King a switch in, a free safe switch in, and that is not something I wanted to allow. So I'm going to make the double out to Vileplume here, and what that does is it covers him going for Heavy Slam or Flash Cannon, and it will give me Rocky Helmet Chip off on this Celesteela, and it'll put my Vileplume at a range of health where I will live the following Air Slash and can sleep something, or just Strength Sap up. And if he goes Nido King, it's the same situation. I can either pivot out to my Balloon Aegislash, or I can put something to sleep, or just Strength Sap to get all my health back. But Matty's going to stay in here in Air Slash, so this wasn't a play that I really expected him to make, but I can understand why he made it. he didn't really lose a ton by that. Like if I went into Coon, he got some damage off on Coon, and he doesn't know that I'm rest at this stage, so yeah, it was a fine play. I just really didn't. I just really expected him there to reveal coverage move, or to go for the leech, or to make a double out into Nitter King there. So it was a pretty tricky spot for me there, but unfortunately, this is really going to come back to haunt me. This is not a play that I disagree with on my end. Like I don't disagree with, in hindsight, I'm not looking at this and thinking, oh, this is a bad play. I understand my reasoning for making this play, but it's going to leave Vileplume at a range of health where it can't reliably check Keldeo, which is going to be pretty bad in the late game, you're going to see. But this time I'm going to switch back out into Clef, realizing that Clef can kind of check this thing. Like in conjunction with Coon, it can PP stall it can PP stall its air slashes and leech seeds, and I can just wish up and pass to Coon and Garchomp. But the thing is, Matty at any one of these turns can go hard into his Keldeo or hard into his Nitter King, and that's really not something I can afford to allow that kind of momentum shift if I can help it. Like sometimes I'm like in this situation, I won't be able to, in the long run, I won't be able to necessarily avoid that, but as best as I can, I will try to avoid that. So I'm going to switch into Jump to receive the Witch. He goes for Metal Sound and misses there, which sucks. Metal Sound's like 85% accurate, so it's going to miss sometimes, but it's in his favor to hit, so that was definitely annoying. But this turn I am going to SD up, and I want to bluff the fact that I'm like I could be Z-move here just to scare out the Celesteela. So this first turn I don't know that he has Protected, he hasn't revealed it, so I am going to go for the Fire Fang as he does show the Protect. Now this reveals Selly's moveset to me. He isn't Heavy Slam, which means that the damage on Vileplume earlier could have been avoided if I just pivoted back between Clef and Coon, so pretty unfortunate, but yeah, I had my reasoning for expecting him to bring Heavy Slam here. So now I expect him to go out to Keldeo on the potential Z move, because it's really the only thing that is going to appreciate it. If I go for like +2 Stone Edge, which I could be, could I? No, I couldn't be Stone Edge because I've revealed all my moves at this stage. So he could go T-Tar, but I feel like he's more likely going to go Keldeo because it gives him more. Like if he goes T-Tar on a Z5 thing, he has to pick an EQ switch the next turn. Whereas if he goes Keldeo on a fire move, he outspeeds me, assuming he's creeping my Garchomp and then can threaten me offensively from the get-go there. So this turn I'm going to make the hard switch to my Clef, which seems like a bit of a weird play, but I'm expecting him to go hard into his Keldeo, and that is going to pay off as he does make the switch out to his Kel, just scouting for the Z move there, which is a very respectable play from Matty's end. But he's going to take Rocks damage and reveal to be lefties, which is important information. So this is not Specs Keld, which means Vileplume is very important now, because chances are this is going to be Toxic and Taunt, and yeah, a really nasty set that is very effective versus me. So this is unfortunate that I let my Vileplume get as weakened as it did. If this was a Specs variant, then it still would be a massive threat, but at least I could always switch my Coon and my Hydras, rest that off. And Coon is a real big problem to his team if this isn't Taunt Keldeo, which it actually turns out to be. So right here, I am going to make the double out to my Metacham here. I make the switch here because I expect him to want to preserve health on Keldeo, because Keldeo is so good. If he takes a Moonblast, he's going to be in range of like +2 Shadow Sneak from my Aegislash, assuming I'm an SD variant, which is something that he could fear and something he has to respect. I know Matty, in his commentary of our previous game, mentioned that Swords Dance Aegislash is a big threat to him, and he's got to respect that threat. In my opinion, I didn't feel like he'd click. He'd stay in here, versus my Clef, who's revealed to be very, pretty SPDF, and this isn't a Specs Keldeo, it's a lefty, so yeah, I felt like here he would make the switch out into his Nitter King there, or even his Celesteela, but probably his Nitter King, because that would allow him to get up Rocks if he is Rocks King, get up T-Spikes if that's the variant of Nitter King he is, or just immediately start threatening my team with Earth Power, as I don't have a visible immunity to that. So I expected him to make that switch, and by doubling to Metacham, I positioned myself to get my Mega Evolution off, and pretty much just click Drain Punch, or even just click Calm Mind, actually, to be honest, on the Nitter King as he's forced to go into Mashana. I can then really put Mashana in a spot where he wants to reveal Toxic, or he has to Baton Pass out into something like Celesteela. And with some Calm Minds up, I can actually and like if I manage to get a Carmine and a bulk up, I can start threatening the Celestealer. But Matty actually makes the play of staying in here and going for Toxic, and this is really unfortunate. So, like, had I stayed in with Clef there and got a Moonblast off, it would have done a big chunk. I know Matty had a lot of bulk on his Keld. He had like something like 100 and something EVs in HP, something like that. Like quite a bit of bulk, and Keld is naturally very bulky, but that's a Moonblast from Clef. Like, that's still going to do a decent chunk. It'd put him at a range where he couldn't take a Drain Punch from my Medi, where he would go down to like an Earthquake from my Garchomp. I'm pretty sure, at least. And a +2 Shadow Sneak from Aegislash. But he makes the really good play of Toxicking there, expecting me to, I think, either make the double or predict his Nidoking, like maybe go for a Wish there with Clef. And that play is really going to work out for Matty, as my Medi is now inside and Toxic. So right here, I am just going to get the Mega off and go for the Drain Punch. I do have Heal Bell on Clef, so I can potentially heal this Medi up at some point in the match if I get the opportunity. But yeah, my worst fears have been confirmed. This is a Toxic Keld, and this is probably going to have Taunt, because Toxic Taunt is just amazing versus my team. And maybe Calm Mind and a stab of choice. Probably Water Coverage, because I have Aegislash, so he doesn't want to be completely walled by Ag. So yeah, pretty bad. But he's going to now bring in his Mashana, and I'm going to make the switch out to Kun. Although I wanted to go Clef to get the Heal Bell off. Him Baton Passing out into Nidoking would have, like, had I gone Clef, he could just click Baton Pass and go out into Nidoking. Going Suicune, on the contrary, forces Nidoking not to necessarily come in. It forces the Lapras to come in and take rocks, or it forces him to go out to Keldeo and reveal Taunt. So I want to keep his Rockers out at all costs if possible, because like I am going to have to make a lot of switches just due to how well Matty's playing this and how poorly my build is matching up here in this given game. So I'm going to go out to my Kun, as he is forced to bring the Lapras, and right here I'm going to switch out into my Clef as he fires off the Specs Freeze Dry. That does 38, which doesn't seem like much, but it's stacking up because he is going to stay in here and Freeze Dry again. This turn was an interesting turn because I could have easily wished here, expecting him to switch out, knowing that Freeze Dry's only doing 38. I can wish on this Protect, but that grants Nidoking a switch in, which is what I wanted to avoid. More importantly, though, because I see Medi still as a vital wink on here, I wanted to get the Heal Bell off, because Medi is... It's looking kind of bleak already at this point. Even though it's 6-6, I understand how much of an issue the Celestealer is to my team. Really, that Celi is the main issue. Like, Karma and Kun would be amazing here if I can weaken this Lapras. But the Metal Sound Celi with the Leech Seed and the Taunt Keldeo, which I presume to be Taunt. I've only seen Toxic at this stage, but I'm assuming Taunt. They're just real nuisances for my squad. So I'm going to get the Heal Bell off, as this turn I'm just going to go for the Protect, and he is going to fire for Freeze Dry once again. But now I'm going to reveal that my Medi is Spadef, as he is going to go for the Freeze Dry. I'm going to chew that only does 42. I'm going to recover this off, as he is forced to go out into his Mashana. So if anything in this game, we have revealed to be Recover Medi, which is pretty nice, as now his Mashana is going to come in here. I'm going to go for the Karma this turn, because I didn't expect him to be Toxic Mashana. I feel like he's Shadow Ball, maybe with Psyshock, Moonlight, and Baton Pass. So now he's going to go into Celi, and I have a Carmine up, but this Celi has the Metal Sand, which is just a fantastic bring, mashed up really well versus what I brought. So that's all I can say. It's just a really good bring. And I am going to fire off a Drain Punch this turn. There's no point setting up Carmines, because his Metal Sounds will be dropping me faster than I can boost. But at least getting a little bit of Drain Punch chip is useful, as now I can go back out into my Suicune here, as his Leech Seed is going to be a little bit irritating, but I am burning leeches every time he goes for them here. So I'm going to fire for a few Scalds, hoping to get a Scald burn, but Kun actually doesn't get any burns this game, which is kind of unlucky. But that's alright. It's only 30%, but yeah, everyone's used to Scald burning on the first turn, so it's kind of funny when you click it multiple times and it doesn't get a single burn. But he's going to go for the Air Slash here, as I bring in my Chomp. And this turn I am going to make the switch back out into Kun, as he is going to go for the leech again. So I'm burning him. I'm burning his leeches. I'm burning his air slashes. But because my clef was left so low, I think I'm at around like 30% or something, maybe a little bit higher than that. From my interactions with the Lapras, I can't effectively switch this thing on leech seeds or air slashes. I really have to, like, if I want my clef to recover, if I want to get back in this, I have to pivot my clef in on the turn he metal sounds, which is going to give me leftovers recovery that turn, and I can then switch back out into Coon, sort of rinse repeat. I can kind of abuse this Selly if I can condition Matty into going for the metal sound here. But of course he can always make the play onto Nidoking, which is why this is such a threat. So this turn I am just going to go hard out into Clefable as he does go for the metal sound. So we get in there, but I say get him, but we're still in a pretty rough spot, as I'm going to go back out into my Coon, fearing the Nidoking coming in on the obvious Protect. Like, Protect there would have been a decent play because it would have allowed me to get a little bit of lefties back, but again, that's a pretty obvious play. Like, Matty knows I like to click Protect with a lot of my mons when I have them in that sort of situation. It would burn another PP from Selly, and it would give me some more lefties. But going back into Coon is overall safer because it covers him doing that, but it also covers him, making the aggressive switch out into Nidoking there. So he's going to go for the air slash. We burn another PP, and I think I'm going to fire off another Scald here. Just trying to get a burn, just trying to let this thing not recover so much with the lefties every turn, because Selly without its lefties is a lot. Obviously a lot less bulky than Selly with lefties. The way I think about lefties is it kind of changes damage rolls. Before you get too low, lefties changes damage rolls by 6%. That's sort of how I view it. Like, without lefties, Selly's longevity is severely reduced. But, obviously it has a leech seed as well to kind of make up for that. But getting a burn would be amazing, but we don't seem to be getting any luck with the burns. So I'm just going to start Calm Minding up with my Coon. If he wants to spam air slash, I can at least cause him to lose some more PP, as I am going to Calm Mind up a second time and reveal that I am the rest set on this Coon. So I'm back at neutral, and I think this turn he's going to go for the metal sound here, and I'm just going to start sleep talking. If I can get back up to even at -2, air slash wasn't doing half to my Coon. It was doing a lot, but it wasn't doing more than half. So I was pretty comfortable that I could stay in here and just Calm Mind up, or just pull a Calm Mind, or even pull a Scald would be a lot better for me, because I'm now at 2.5. I'm now at like +3 special attack, so that would be really nice if I could get a boosted Scald off. As unfortunately I don't. I get a Calm Mind up the first turn, and the second turn I am going to pull a rest, which is really unfortunate. Had I got a Scald off, that could have been really nice, but he's going to leech me here, and this turn I am going to switch back out into Clef as he does go for the metal sound. So we catch him once more, and this turn I really should have doubled back into my Suicune. I really should have, but I get a little bit greedy with Clef, and I go for the Protect. And this was I'm hesitant to call it a misplay in a sense, because Matty'd shown his tendency to stay in with Selly, but it wasn't the most optimal play I could have made. I could have gone back out into my Suicune here, but I didn't choose to do that. I stayed in with Clef to get a little bit more health, but in the process I lost a ton of momentum. So right here, Matty's going to make an excellent play. He's going to go for the Thunderbolt, predicting my Coon. I guess either my Coon, but more than likely my Balloon AG in the back. And this was a huge play, because now obviously AG, I can't pivot into Medi from AG on a T-Bolt and potentially scare this Nidoking out. Granted, I have revealed a lot of coverage on my Medi, and my set suggests that I'm Baton Pass, so he might not even be scared out in the first place, but I can't even stay in and fire off a Shadow Ball, weakening this thing for Suicune Scald, so that is pretty unfortunate. So this Aegislash is essentially pretty useless here, as I am going to bring in my Medicham to stomach and Earth Power. We take 57.3 from a modest Life Orb Earth Power. That was a pretty lowish roll, but that's still pretty respectable. This Medi's bulk is pretty solid, as 63% on that roll. So yeah, the rolls are pretty real here. I can't. It's not like I can PB Saw this, and he has Sludge Wave as well. So it's not like I'd be winning that, even if I did stall out his Earth Powers in that exchange. So unfortunately, yeah, I've played this. I don't even think I played this mid game badly. I think Matty just made some good plays. Like that T-ball play was really nice. That put him in a great spot to pretty much claim one there. So right here, I did have to sack off the Valplume, which is which, you know, I could have done first rather than going into my Aegislash. I could have just gone hard into Valplume, but expecting Matty to make the T-ball play there was far less likely than him just going for the Earth Power. So I backed my decision going to Ag there. He just made a really good read there, but I end up sacking off my Valplume, which is going to prove fatal in the late game versus the Keldeo because he is Toxic Taunt, Carmine, Surf, so he's going to essentially 1v1 the rest of my team, but having Valplume at least would be able to Giga Drain it down, and Surf wouldn't be doing too much to me. So losing that, and if I managed to get a Strength Zap off on anything, I would be back up to a really nice amount of health, and I would be able to check that Keldeo somewhat decently, though he does have Taunt and Carmine, so even then I think it would have been pretty tough if he got the boost up. But regardless, I'm going to go into my Garchomp here, and I am going to go for the Earthquake, as he does go into his Lapras this turn. And what Lapras did was it covered me, like, he was either sacking it off, or if I Swords Dance, he had Ice Shard, so Ice Shard would be able to deal a huge amount of damage to Garchomp, probably taking it out, though I am Yachi Berry, so it wouldn't have taken me out, but it could have taken a Z-move variant out, potentially, depending on rolls, I think. But either way, I'm not going to sack Trump here. I'm going to switch out to my Aegislash, which has done absolutely nothing this game, and I'm just going to stay in and go for the Shadow Sneak. So this is a pretty tough spot. At this point though, like, he has no immunities to Scald, which is nice, but he does have a Keldeo with Taunt, so it's going to be tough. But Coon, yeah, at this stage, like, if he doesn't have Taunt on Keld, like, I'm in a solid spot, but we're going to have to see. So he's going to go into his Nidoking. I'm going to Shadow Sneak for some chip to put this closer in range of a Min Roll Suicune Scald. And here I am going to go into Garchomp as opposed to going Coon, purely because I needed a pretty decent roll to be able to take a very bulky Nidoking out with Scald from my Coon. And if he switched in on Rocks one more time, he was at a much nicer range of health where I could afford to take that risk. But him going into Mashana here, he's going to chew that. He's going to chew that Earthquake pretty well. He's going to be well out of range of the following Earthquake. But this is going to give me my Suicune to wake up this turn, as his Shadow Ball does very little. And I think this turn I do just go for the Scald, as he does go for the Baton Pass or the Moon. Yeah, he just Baton Passes here. Even if I had Calm-Minded up there, he would have always been able to bring in this Taunt Keldeo the next turn. The reason I went for hard Scald instead of hard Calm-Mind was if he brought the Keldeo in hard, as opposed to going for Baton Pass, which, like, he could have made either of those two plays, but Baton Pass was a fine play anyway. But if he kind of made a, I guess, choke and went hard Keld, I had two opportunities to burn with Scald, as opposed to just going for a Calm Mind that turn and then getting taunted the following turn and only having one chance to go for Scald. At least, like, if I click Scald twice, he has to waste a turn taunting me before my next Scald. So I hope that makes sense. I can have more chances to potentially burn this Keldeo, removing its recovery. So he is going to Baton Pass out into Keld, and this turn he is going to go for the Taunt, as I do expect him to. Yeah, the way he brought it in, I expect this to be Calm Mind or Taunt. But unfortunately don't get another burn, and he is going to go for Toxic, and I get a Scald again, and I don't get a burn either. So this is a very, very nice Keldeo versus me. As soon as the Valplume went down, there was really not a whole lot I could do versus this thing, as it was just a very solid set here. And I'm going to bring in my Clef, hoping that he has, like, he goes for Sacred Sword here, as that in conjunction with, like, Protect, Mind Games, and Lefty's Recovery, he might Taunt. I might be able to get a Moonblast off. I might be able to get a Wish off, depending on if he goes for Surf that turn. But he does go for Surf there, and that is going to put Clef at a range where it's going to drop, even after this Lefty's Recovery, obviously dropping to another Surf. So Clef is essentially down at this point, and I'm going to go back out into my Coon. I've lost the game at this point. I've conceded to Matty. I think I say I congratulate him in the chat. Yes, yeah, okay. Alright, so a lot happened here. So I'll sort of try and break down. But yeah, at this point in the game, I say in the chat to Matty that good game, man. I cannot. What do I say? GG, bro. I don't think I can beat this without Plume. Go win finals. Anyway, very very fun game versus Matty. I think he built and played it very very well. He did what he needed to get around my team. I think this Keldeo was the real cornerstone of his team, working very effectively. Selly as well. I think Keldeo plus Selly really just were the MVPs for Matty here, and the Selly was a big nuisance, but I felt like I could play around it with Clef and Suicune eventually when I realized like how I could beat it. But this Keldeo was just too big of an obstacle for my sort of slow passive team to overcome this week, unfortunately. Had my Vileplume maybe been a bit more specially defensive or a bit more offensive, maybe with some more investment in Giga Drain, Giga Drain would be able to do more to this Keld. But yeah, as I mentioned in the team build, I was really concerned about Mimikyu. I think that thing was in tandem with Keldeo and Nidoking was an enormous threat to me. So I stand by how I built. I think Matty just himself built a really really good team and played a fantastic semis game. So that is going to be the semis game. Matty won this game fair and square. Despite what you see down here, it says a tie between Gypsy and Matty. So it was a bit of a funny story. We decided to let the timer run down as a sort of as a bit of a joke between us, but it is also the way Matty wanted to go out in the NPL. He wanted this game to be his final game, and despite what it says down here, like it says a tie, but we all know like Matty won this game fair and square. Like this was Matty's game. He played it really well. It was a very very solid win for him, and despite it saying a tie, he did like this was a loss for me. So there was no sort of like this wasn't like a bit of confusion at the end of the game. It wasn't like, oh, there was no true winner in that sense, because clearly we lost this one. But Matty wanted this game to be his last in the NPL. Like me, he's not. His time for the NPL has passed, and it is time that he moves on to bigger and better things. And it's the same situation for us. Would have liked to see him go on, obviously, to play in finals. That would have been really really fun to see Matty win a chip in his last season. But I would definitely understand how he feels. Like passion for the league is just gone, and leaving on his own terms, and leaving on our own terms, I should say, because this was a group. We both wanted to do this. Regardless, but leaving on our own terms is something that I can definitely understand, and I know this triggered a lot of people. A lot of people were very salty and very angry, but honestly, I can understand why someone like Asta, who was the guy who made it to finals, was upset at not having someone to play in finals. I can definitely understand that. Certainly that would be frustrating from his perspective. But I can understand why Matty made the decision he did, definitely. I think Ass is going to end up playing Zazu, my boy Anthony, in finals, which in a kind of like makeshift environment. So that should be pretty fun to watch. But as for Matty and myself, that is going to be the way we go out in the NPL. Very, very... I had a lot of fun in the NPL. These past 4 seasons have been a ton of fun. Whilst kind of enjoyment of the league has sort of gone down over time, I still had a lot of great memories in here, met a lot of great friends, and had a lot of success in this league. I think I got to use a lot of fun mons. I really enjoyed my teams over the seasons, from back in Season 5 to the team I had last season, which I probably liked more than anything. I think my team last season was the team I enjoyed the most. But this team this season has been a lot of fun too. I really enjoyed using Clef. Clef was a huge mon that I enjoyed to use. Medi was a lot of fun. AG was great. I don't think, after having used it myself, I don't think it's like as amazing as some people believe it is. I think it's definitely worth a lot of leagues considering it to be involved. Like you saw in this game, like, and it wasn't just because, like, even if Matty didn't bring Tyranitar, Aegislash was very, very underwhelming here. Like, stuff like Nidoking with bulk investment can live Shadow Balls with ease, can live like +2 Shadow Sneaks, and can always blow it away. Celesteela always was checking AG here. Keldeo always checking AG, like Taunt, Surf, like, it's pretty weak without a boosting item. I'll say that, and a boosting item isn't something you can always afford with it, because in a lot of games you're going to be wanting to run lefties, because the longevity of AG is a massive factor in it. Complementing its defensive typing and its defensive prowess. And in some matches you're going to want to be running resist berries, so you can't always afford the luxury of a boosting item, and that really shows in certain games. But in other games it can be fantastic with like Swords Dance, or just with like a breaker set, like a Life Orb set. But I don't know if it was necessarily Aegislash or the way my speed tiers worked in my draft. I had a pretty slow team. Like, Selgor was fast, like really, really fast, but it was apart from that, like, Nihilega was my fastest mon. So it was very I don't know. My team was very fat, and I had a lot of power on there, but I didn't have the momentum that I usually have on a lot of my drafts. And the speed tiers were a little bit off, and that, not that I'm one to like obsess over having every degree of speed tier, but they certainly can help, especially like high speed that can grab momentum. That's something I'm finding with Coco that I'm really enjoying, but not even necessarily stuff like Coco, but just like faster mons. Base 110s, for example, are really useful. Like a base 110 would have been amazing here. Something like a Latios would have been fantastic. Something like anything in that kind of speed tier or above would have been really huge in this game. But a lot of my team was at the kind of weakness when it came to speed. But using Coon again was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed using Garchomp, even though I brought like Z Outrage to pretty much all of my games. What else did I have on my squad? I'll just take a look quickly at my roster. I enjoyed using Mandibuzz a lot. That was a lot of fun. A relic from the past. Quag, big Quag. Oof, what a budget for 4 points. That thing put in the work this season. Abomasnow was a fun late season pickup. Unfortunately, I didn't get to use Geosion, but that thing is pretty awesome. Selgor was a ton of fun to use as well. So overall, a very fun team. Despite it having like a godly Fairy Dragon Steel core, I don't think it was one of the best teams I've ever drafted, but it was a lot of fun. I'll give it that. But definitely by the end of the season, I noticed some real big flaws in it that I didn't have in, maybe that I could overcome with some other drafts that I've had in the past. But that being said, it was still a very dominant team. It was 9-1 in the regular season, and we did lose the semi-finals, but it was to a really good friend of mine, Matty, and his amazing build. So I'm very, very content with this season and the way it went out. Obviously, there was some sort of mixed feelings at the end of the season between a lot of people, but honestly, like overall, in terms of my overall NPL experience, it's been a very positive one. I've had a lot of fun, and I've got to meet a lot of you guys, interact with a lot of my viewers purely from the NPL. So that was how my channel really blew up. So if you can call it that. I mean, it's not like huge, but I definitely have grown considerably since I began YouTube. So I'm very appreciative of that. And it's been a lot of fun, certainly. But I don't want you guys to think that I'm like done with Mons. I know in my NPL server channel, I've been talking to the people there, like my friends, my subscribers, and I interact with you guys there. And I know some people are kind of concerned that because I'm not going to be in the NPL anymore, am I quitting draft? No, that's not the case at all. Like, I love the format. I'm still going to be playing in the ITL. I'm going to be uploading that. In fact, I just uploaded week 5 today, so I'm sure you guys probably have seen that by now, but by the time this goes up. But ITL is still very much a league that I love, and it's got a lot of great competition. Future leagues is definitely not out of the question. There could be some things in the works, we'll see, but I don't want to make any promises there, but it really all just depends on my schedule. I will be playing I think I can say this because not a lot of you guys probably will, know much about like the OU tour scene, but I will be playing in World Cup, which is going to be a lot of fun. I'm not sure if I'm going to upload my games yet. It depends on how much time I have, but that's going to be a lot of good fun, and I will be able to sort of direct a lot of my focus into that. So that should be a fun experience playing for Oceania again. But we'll see when we get to that. But yeah, that is going to be a a really fun match to see out my NPL experience. Had a lot of fun in this league. I wish them all the best with the league in the future. I don't know what is going to kind of go on with the league. I know there's a lot of discussion going on now, but hopefully, hopefully they can continue on and have a lot of great matches to come in the future. I know I'll be interested to see who how the league progresses, and what sort of coaches can separate themselves in the NPL from the others and really kind of make a name for themselves. So that should be good fun. But that's going to be it from me for NPL Season 8. I hope you guys did enjoy. I appreciate all the support I've got over the course of the NPL as a whole in Season 8. It's been a lot of fun. Definitely go and check out Matty's perspective. I've already seen it, and that video is a lot of fun to watch. And he goes into some great detail in his thought process as well. So I definitely recommend you go and check that out. And I hope you guys did enjoy this one. It was a bit of a longer video, but I had some good points to make here, and I think I went into some relatively good detail about the decisions I made when it came to the building and the playing. So hopefully you guys did enjoy, and that's going to be it from me. Drop a like if you did, and let me know your thoughts on the season as a whole in the comments below, and I'll catch you guys next time.